Hi, guys. So, welcome back to another episode of Cuntfessionals. Today's episode is not meant to ruffle any feathers. I am not trying to do that, but I do want to speak my truth. And my truth is that I believe that if I ever had a bipolar disorder, that I no longer have it. And I'll give some context. I'll give a little bit of context before I get started. But when I was 26 years old, I went to therapy. I went to a psychiatrist here in California, and I was diagnosed with depression, ADHD, and bipolar 2. Quite the mixture of mental illnesses. They put instead of sugar, what is it? Sugar and spice or whatever the fuck, I got bipolar, depression, and ADHD. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 20 or 21 by my primary care doctor. I don't know if they were able to do that, but on my medical records, they said clinical depression. So, yeah. Anyways, I do believe that I am cured from two out of those three. And the reason that I believe that I no longer have these disorders is because I feel like I'm not prone to them anymore. It's not that I haven't felt them in a while or that I haven't had a manic episode in a while or that I haven't fallen into depression. Like yes, that is true. That hasn't happened in a while, but I no longer feel prone to these issues or to these illnesses. So, yeah. And then also, I would like to say as a disclaimer that I'm very skeptical about my bipolar diagnosis because my psychiatrist was didn't even know what to diagnose me with, and he diagnosed me within less than 5 minutes with like from talking to me. He asked me what was going on. I told him all my symptoms. I gave him some of my experience. The reason I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder was because I was hyper religious when from the ages of 17 to 19, and then I fell into like the worst depression of my life from 19 to probably like 21. And as a result of the religious, what I like to say religious psychosis, but my psychiatrist said that that was not psychosis. Even though I was hearing voices and I believed that the devil was talking to me and God was talking to me, my psychiatrist said that that was a manic episode and not psychosis. And the criteria to fit into bipolar disorder is that you only need one manic episode or hypomanic episode. My episode was hypomanic because I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. So, yeah, he said like he literally, this is how it went when I was having my diagnosis. He was like, "Oh, I don't know if you have BPD. Let me see. Depression for sure. Definitely ADHD. I think so. Yeah. Hmm. No, it's not BPD. You have bipolar. Bipolar too." And I was like, "Okay, bro, like okay." And you know what? Even though I am skeptical, I can see why he diagnosed me with this. My primary doctor back in Texas thought that I was also bipolar. While I was in the midst of this, like I had not only the hypomanic episode, but I had like suicidal ideation. I had just long lasting depressive episodes. And that's the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 is that bipolar 2 is more associated with depressive episodes and depression more so than the manic or hypomanic. Whereas bipolar 1, you're more crazy. It's a lot more fun in quotation marks. But yeah, I'm definitely very skeptical. My manic episode was the religious episode that I had when I was like preaching, going to the abortion clinic, protesting. I was one of those people. I was definitely one of those people. And I snapped out of it within days. And I remember like the moments when I was snapping out of it and I went crazy. I started drinking, I started experimenting and doing all the things I thought I had missed out on. And it was so harmful. I was doing a lot of self-harm. And yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been a really long journey, but thank God, I feel like now I'm at a point where I feel whole, I feel complete. I am no longer at the whims of my impulses and my emotions. So that is why in full confidence I can say and I can tell you that I'm cured. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this episode started. So let's talk about the things that I tried that didn't work. And that's when it comes to with depression and with my bipolar disorder, ADHD. Number one thing was medication. Medication did not work for me. I tried Zoloft. Zoloft is probably the one that made me feel the best, but no, don't recommend. It's not for me. Wellbutrin, and then I tried another one, Abilify. I was on mood stabilizers too because I'm bipolar. So I was on ADHD medication and then mood stabilizers to not have me go manic. Whatever. Fun story though. The time that I got prescribed Zoloft, I was also prescribed mood stabilizers, and I was with that same psychiatrist that diagnosed me. And he was like, "You really need to take. I'm only gonna prescribe you Zoloft if you take your mood stabilizers, because then you'll go manic and you'll go crazy again." He didn't say it like that, but he said it like that. And I was like, yeah, yeah, sure, whatever. And I told him that I didn't believe my diagnosis, and he got so mad, he got so butthurt. But whatever. I mean, I get it. Years of medical school, and then you have this fucking crazy patient telling you that your diagnosis is wrong. Like, okay, I get it. But yeah, I told him, yeah, whatever. I kind of was like, I'm not gonna take them. So I wanted to experiment to see if I would go manic. And sure enough, I didn't. I didn't take the mood stabilizers. I just took the Zoloft for a few weeks. And I didn't really like the altered experience. It's like when when you drink and yeah, like it feels good, but then you get to the point where it's like, not everybody experiences this, but because sometimes drinking feels really good. But when you do drugs or when you drink or whatever, you get to a point where you're like, oh, I just want to be sober. That's how I felt with a lot of these medications, including Zoloft. And I was like, I don't like the way that this feels. I'm just going to stop. So I abruptly stopped. I abruptly started. I abruptly stopped. No mood stabilizers, no manic episode. I've only had the religious manic episode. And yeah, like I'm a crazy person. I've done crazy shit. But I don't consider those manic episodes because nothing I did was like extremely, extremely harmful, like that religious episode. So yeah, but technically, again, the only thing you need to for the diagnosis for bipolar disorder is one episode. So yeah. And yeah, tried medication, did not work. I have been raw dogging reality for a while now. And it's been great. It's been great. It's just me and therapy. Me and my therapist, and it's working. Like it's working really well. Another thing that I tried, and this was very early on in my early 20s, was um recreational substances. And I kind of tried this too in 2023. And you know what? Because I respect them, I'm not advocating for them at all, but because I respect these substances, um, and I know their dangers, I feel like they did help me to some extent, but I always made sure that I was in a safe environment with safe people and that I took small amounts. It helped me? Yes. What was the purpose of it was never for it to heal me. So it didn't heal me at all. But it did help in those very dark moments where like I needed to be in community and be happy. Like a lot of these environments that I tried this in, I hope you know what I'm insinuating, was in rave environments. So with great people, with great, amazing people. And it helped. It did really help. Like that was one of like my first rave ever was Zed. First DJ I ever saw was Diora, who was opening for Zed. And that was the first time I ever tried a little fun candy, if you know what I mean. And I tried half, and I was with my friend Andrew and his friends, new friend that I had just made that day, by the way, and when he was in my history class. And I felt so safe. I felt so protected. I had so much fun. And I remember that moment. I was like, it's possible to feel something. It's possible to be happy. And that just opened up my mind and it helped me. It really did help me in that moment. But I would never recommend it as something that works, and you could definitely do without it, because all that it did for me was open up my mind, open up the possibilities of being happy, uh healing, all that stuff. And you can do that on your own without these. It's just in those moments, I guess I needed it. I needed to hear it, like to hear a voice in my head saying, "Oh, it's possible to feel happy." Like I needed to feel that emotion. My beliefs were not there. My belief system was that I was gonna like not live because of how miserable I was. So doing that challenged my belief system, but again, you can do that without the substances. You don't need it. You don't need it. Another thing that I tried, and this is kind of like an indirect attempt, was drinking and partying. And I want to specify, this more because I've been doing that like all my 20s. Like I did that all my 20s, but I really hung on to or was clinging to partying and drinking in 2022 when I was very, very depressed. Like it was one of my worst depressive episodes. Like I would say it was number 2 or number 3 on the rankings of like so many. But it was really bad and I was going out a lot. I started going out to have fun, enjoy my life, whatever, and it didn't work. It didn't work. It just made me more miserable, especially like the highs and lows of drinking, the hangovers. Sometimes I wouldn't get hangover, but I would still be miserable and it would make it worse. So that's an obvious, that's a given, but don't recommend that. The things that did work are right here. 4 years of therapy. I've been in therapy since August of 2021. My 4 year anniversary just passed. It was the best investment that I could have ever made for myself. And I'm very blessed to be in a state, California, where telehealth is free. And I had an insurance where, don't recommend this insurance because it did do me very dirty. It almost but the positive thing about this insurance is that I had free telehealth. So with free telehealth, I had free therapy. And yeah, I went to therapy for 4 years. And it was at a point in my life where I had just moved from Texas. I moved here to LA and I was so happy and I was at a high, at a peak. I was manifesting a lot. And then boom, a dip, like a very low dip. And that dip was so low because it came from a big high and I hadn't experienced the high like that in years. So imagine being depressed from the ages of like 19 to 25 in toxic environments, surviving abuse, domestic abuse, like familial abuse, it's surviving the worst of the worst, and then you move, you're free from it, you feel so free, you feel relaxed, you're happy, you're pursuing your dreams. Like I made a big accomplishment by leaving that environment, and I was at a high. I was manifesting so much. I was getting representation, I was getting free headshots, I was getting auditions for like huge productions for Marvel, like shit like that. I was getting a lot of that. Imagine coming from that high and then all of a sudden all these disappointments come and they just saturate and take, like, the negativity and the cloud just comes back bigger and bigger because the sun was used to be so bright. So you're just like, whoa, 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 what happened? So I put myself in therapy, bitch. I best believe I put myself in therapy because I was like, I can't do this again, I can't be miserable again. So I put myself in therapy and yeah, best investment I ever made. Another thing that worked aside from therapy, and I would say, I'm going to say that anybody that puts themselves in therapy, make sure that you pick your therapist carefully. If you don't like your therapist, change, get a new one. And there's certain types of therapists and certain things should be implemented in therapy. A huge thing that worked for me was EMDR. EMDR therapy. I'm going to look up what it stands for, actually. Let me see. Okay, EMDR stands for eye movement EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing. So what you do is you either do tapping, so you tap, you're like bilaterally stimulating your senses while you're processing trauma. So my therapist gathered a long list of all my traumas and we went in order from like when I was the youngest to the most recent. And I first started with looking. So I had a screen and there was like a ball. You know when you're getting hypnotized like that? It's literally that. So you're thinking of that specific trigger, and you're looking side to side, side to side, and then you're tapping side to side, side to side. Like whatever it is that you choose. I think there's one with hearing also. Uh but I first started with eye, and then I moved to tapping. And yeah, what this does, what EMDR does, is kind of what you're supposed to do on your own, but in EMDR, it's professional and you're guided by a professional. So what it's supposed to do is that it it brings that feeling and those negative beliefs to the surface. So like things that were dug in deep, like traumas that are just repressed in the body, it brings them to the surface. And your therapist should ask you, like, where do you feel this in your body? Like, what is the belief? Like, they ask you these questions with each trauma, and then you start a set of tapping or eye movements, and you're supposed to like literally you're processing that feeling in real time. So, for example, um I like one of my first memories. Oh, like I don't know if I should say this. Uh, okay. I will say trigger warning. Trigger warning. You can skip. You can skip this. But I will say it. I will say because I think it helps, and it's like trauma can be very severe. People have gone through this shit, so I'm gonna say it. My first memory that I processed was when I was 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, and doing homework was always an issue with my mother. If I didn't understand something, I've always been bad at. I've never liked math, so I've never been good at it, and I couldn't ask my mom for help because if I didn't understand something, it was a beating. It meant violence. So I really had to do this homework because I had a really strict teacher for first grade, and I had to do it. And I couldn't. It was multiplications or so. I forgot what it was, but I couldn't understand the homework. And my mom was explaining it to me, and I just wouldn't get it. I wouldn't get it. So she whooped. She didn't even whoop my ass. Like we had a glass table, and she started like smashing my head on the glass table. Super painful. She like wrinkled up, tore up my homework. It was very bad, and she was calling. She was saying that I was dumb, that I was good for nothing, stupid. So that for me has been like my mom whooped my ass thousands of times throughout my youth, but that was probably like one of the ones that stuck with me the most because it had to do with me like being good enough for something, like performing something. And at school, like I had a really hard time because I have ADHD. I had a really hard time paying attention and understanding a lot of these things. So I already had a complex that I was dumb and that I was not good enough. And it's not like I was failing, but I felt so much pressure that I had to be perfect and that I had to be the best. And I wasn't. I wasn't. Like school was just I performed really well and almost perfect at like 2 points in my academic career, but for the most part I didn't. So yeah, I remember that, like, and it wasn't even the beating itself. It was just like her words, like her saying that I was stupid and like not even getting my homework done. So I remember I was like processing this, and she like asked me like, what is the belief? And I was like, oh, that I'm helpless, that I'm stupid. And she's like, how true does this feel from like 1 through 7? Like I think they'll ask you like slightly, it varies a little bit by therapist, I'm not sure, but that's how my therapist asked me. So I gave her the number, I forgot what it was, and then she's like, where do you feel it in your body? And so I would feel it like in my stomach. I'd feel the fear and the like that sensation. I feel in my stomach. So began a set of tapping, the feeling helpless, feeling sometimes like not with all my traumas, but with some of them, like they'd bring me to tears. Like it's hard. It's really, really, really hard, but it works. It works. It works wonders. It is beautiful. And the great thing about EMDR is that it's like a snowball effect. It starts out small, but the more momentum you get, the bigger and the faster that it goes. So the more I did MDR throughout these 4 years, the easier it got for me to process things in real time as they were happening and to emotionally regulate. All those things got so much easier. So, yeah, God bless the inventor of EMDR. God bless my therapist. That I owe everything to therapy and to EMDR. Absolutely fucking everything I owe to that. And I highly, highly recommend. And it's not for everybody. Like there are other forms of therapy. Like there's oh, I forgot the term, but there's one where it's more focused on like challenging your negative and limiting beliefs. I forgot what it's cognitive something. I forgot what it was called, but EMDR works great for me. It's great for people that have a scroll of trauma. And yeah, like I don't know, like I still feel like I'm still a human being. I still feel sad. I still get triggered. I still feel I battle with like these feelings sometimes with like certain things, like especially family. But the way that I sometimes I just stay at baseline. Like if I'm sad, like I'm still pretty like level-headed and at baseline. But when I'm not, I return so quick. Like I don't go into this black hole of despair or helplessness or like I'm not good enough or like they don't love me. Like I don't go there for long if I even go there now. Like I don't really go there anymore. But if I do feel those emotions, I just let myself sit with it. I sit with it just like as if it was EMDR but minus the tapping. And I do other self-soothing techniques. And then I come back. I come back to baseline quickly. Usually like now it's quick. Before it wasn't. But that's what it is. Like it requires time, it requires effort, it requires consistency, and I highly highly recommend. Another thing that worked for me was patience. I've been battling depression since I was 8 years old. My first actually like earlier, like my first experience with depression was probably like 3. Like I've mentioned this in my episode, like that's the first time I really felt like super super sad and lonely and like worthless and all that bullshit. But my first like suicidal thought was at 8. So it's been an uphill up and down journey, and it hit the worst after the manic episode, after my religious episode. So I really wanted to get better because I had been better at some points in my life, especially when I was a preteen. So I wanted to just return to that so bad. So it had been a decade of me fighting tooth and nail to get better. I did therapy in my early mid 20s, but it was more so talk therapy. And it helped a little bit, but it wasn't like, it wasn't amazing. Like it didn't really help the root of my issues. Like she was giving me advice and she was helpful and she was really nice, but we didn't get to the like nitty-gritty depth of like trauma and my history and all those things. So, yeah, I needed patience and I had to have it. I had no choice. Like it was either I was going to off myself or have patience. And patience, I mean, I'm here now. I feel so much better now. I am glad that I had it, even in the moments where I did not want to have it. So, yeah, patience works. Patience you need. Patience sometimes is the only choice you have. Another thing that worked is using the tools that I gained and putting them in practice when I was not in therapy. Like, you can't fully rely on EMDR and therapy. You have to put this stuff into practice in your everyday life. So, I do applied behavioral analysis for children on the spectrum. That's my day job. And one of the things that we try to do when there's behaviors in children like tantrums, um, violence, like things like that, is sometimes we need the children to get triggered. We need the bad behavior to be activated so we can work with it in the moment. We need to do that with ourselves. We need to do that with ourselves. And I mentioned this in like every episode, but one way that I did this was dating. I had huge traumas with SA, with men, and like really really bad. So I had bad attachment issues. I was very high anxiety. So I put myself out there and I started dating. Like one thing that I did was celibacy, and I would stop dating, and it was great. Don't get me wrong. I will never say that that's not great, because it is. It's very peaceful, but I realized that I needed to like trigger myself. So I did. And when these triggers would rise up, oh my God, they had such a hold on me. Like it was so hard. Like most of the times I didn't win. Like the triggers won. I acted out. Like I acted out on these triggers because they just had me on a chokehold. But after they would control me, I would reflect and I'd be like, okay, what can I learn from that? And every time a trigger came up, it was less bad each time. Like sometimes it would still have me on a chokehold, but every time it would get released and released and released. These are not disorders that can just go away or that typically go away. But I will say that I do believe that these things can be cured. I believe that. Do I believe that that's extremely rare? Yes. Like I believe that BPD can be cured. I believe that narcissism can be cured. Does it happen? No, not really. Like I've experienced people with narcissism, and yeah, I don't see them changing, and that's because of the difficulty like of the disorder itself and like what it causes within you, like in your mind, in your head. Like it's it's not and not it's not that it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely. So I understand the skepticism behind like, oh, you're cured, like you're always gonna have bipolar. I don't I just don't believe that I could have another depressive episode or manic episode. Like that's just not in my reality anymore. It's not. And I say that in full confidence because what anchored the episodes of depression, and especially the depression, was negative beliefs. That was my anchor. That was what I hung on to for depression. I believed that these negative things, that I was chronically depressed, that I had no purpose, that like nothing was for me. Those beliefs were at the core of who I am. And I had believed them for years, for like so long. I was at the whims of my emotions, and that's no longer the case. Like my identity is new. I am not that person anymore. Simple as that. Like I can't really find another way to explain it. Now, when it comes to manic episodes, I'm a crazy bitch. Like I'm crazy. I like to do crazy adventurous things. And I had to question myself because like I decided that I was moving like a few weeks ago. And guess what I'm doing? I'm moving. Um and that was kind of on a whim, but not really, because I'm a grown ass woman. I'm a grown woman. I'm 30 years old. I can sustain myself. I can work and make a living anywhere that I want. I'm still in the same country. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And people were making it a big of a deal around me a little bit. So I was like, oh, like, am I just being impulsive? Am I just doing this? Because people with BPD and bipolar do these impulsive things and they move and they have adventures. But that's because they're chasing a feeling, like they're chasing like wanting to feel like enough, or they're like, it's, it's similar because I want to feel better. Like I'm bored and I want to have an adventure, but my feet are on the ground. And when you're being controlled by your emotions, you're up in the air and you're flying and you're literally like skydiving. And that's why it feels good. And I'm not skydiving. Like I'm on the floor. I'm on the floor and I am taking every step intentionally. So, and I question myself. Like I try to be self-aware. I question myself and I'm like, is this manic? Is this not? And no, it's not. I just want to fucking move. And I kind of go through my decisions that way. Like I'm not going to change my actual like good personality that I was born with. It's like I'm a high adventure, like high stakes person. Like that's just who I am. And that has nothing to do with my diagnosis, like absolutely nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of questioning involved. I'm not just saying that I'm cured because I want to piss people off or because I want to piss off doctors or as clickbait, maybe a little clickbait, but it's not the intention. is not solely that. I do believe this. I do believe that. I've only gone manic that one time when I was religious, and honestly the reason that that happened was because I was a teenager, highly impressionable. I was trying to escape a toxic environment and I went into this other toxic environment. My mother at the time had like she really did it. You know, she really messed me up in here in the past. So I was trying to escape that. And religion gave me a sense of purpose, a sense of identity that I desperately needed. And I felt seen. Like, I felt like people cared about me for the first time ever. I never felt like people, only my grandpa, and he died when I was 4. So, like, think about a little girl, like a teenage girl with no guidance, no role models, and getting beat almost every day of her life, and all of a sudden there's a community that like welcomes you with open arms and says we love you, you're valuable, like all the like come on, come on. Of course I fell into it. And when you are so like, not only the community itself but like the beliefs that they feed you, like when you are so high on a singular thing, whether it's religion or belief in yourself or whatever, when you're so set on that, it kind of gives you a high. It gives you a high. And the high that comes with being religious and like looking for fights, like you're feeding very toxic parts of yourself that have to do with your ego. And you feel superior even when you say you don't, you do. Like you feel like you have a prized possession, the truth of the world. Like how ridiculous is that? You feel that as a human being you have the truth of the world. So of course that's going to make you act out. So I understand myself fully, like why I went into that, why that happened, like what it did, the ways that it wired my brain at that susceptible age. I get it. I get it. And like my beliefs of not being worthy and like being unlovable, they were still there. They were just hidden and repackaged. It's like, oh, I'm unlovable, but God loves me. You know, it's like, of course, like when I did snap out of it, thank God that I snapped out of it. Everything just resurfaced and it was messy and it was traumatic. Like even yeah, like the coming out of the religion, the being in the religion was traumatic and the coming out of it was also traumatic. So, and then that led to more traumatic things because I was so lost. But I understand that. Like I have a bird's eye view on my life and why things happen the way that they did. And my feet are so well planted. So I'm not bipolar. Not anymore. Because when you're bipolar, you are at the mercy of your emotions. You are at the mercy of your impulses. You're just being dragged. That's the way it is. That's how it is with BPD. You are dragged by the belief systems that happen in here and you don't have control. But I have control now. I have full control over myself, over my heart, my mind, and my path. I want to do things that just make me feel good and make me feel happy. So I always ask myself, does this serve me? Is this good for me? Because when you're being controlled by your impulses, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad for you, you just do it. And now it's like, you know, if it's not good for me, I'm not going to do it. Even if I feel like it's going to feel good in the moment, like no. No, I'm not that person anymore. Like I have authority and I have control. And yeah, I have confidence and I can command whatever I want into my life because I am anchored in like real self-love. Also, speaking of self-love, like one of the main things I want to mention is that what really encapsulates my healing and anchors me in that those positive beliefs is self-trust. I rebuilt a lot of self-trust when I was in therapy because back when I was crazy, like the wrong type of crazy, I was not keeping promises to myself. I was setting the bar too high and then not following through. So that's like one thing that you have to practice consistently is little wins, little wins. So in therapy, aside from EMDR and aside from all these things, I would have homework, especially in the beginning of like, oh, I want to go to the gym, I want to be fit. Well, today well, this week, you're only going once a week for 30 minutes. Like the goal, you start small. In order to build confidence, in order to build self-love, you have to trust yourself. Like, why would you love somebody that you don't trust? No, but you can't do that. You can't do that. If you really want to love yourself, you have to build self-trust and you start small. When somebody messes up, they have to do reparations. So that's what you do with yourself. You do reparations and you start with what you can. You make little tiny promises that are easy to keep and then you build from there. Once you get from self-trust to self-love, then it gets easier to maintain boundaries and have self-respect. Like this is all a ladder that you have to climb little by little. So you have to be really graceful with yourself. You have to be very patient and trust me, you can get there. You can get there. And I know it's been 4 years for me and it sounds like a long time, but it's really not that long. And the journey, like that's what stories are. Stories are long journeys of ups and downs, of mistakes. That is what makes life interesting, is mistakes, things that you learn, lessons. Like we wouldn't have schools if mistakes didn't exist. Like if everything was perfect, we wouldn't have a lot of the great things that we have right now. So patience is truly a virtue because it allows you to see the value in messing up. And that's where you learn and that's where you grow. Like that is the essence of growth, is messing up and mistakes. Beliefs shape your life and it'll always serve you to have positive beliefs about the world and positive beliefs about yourself, especially about yourself. And I know that this world is messed up and reality is a certain way. The thing is like reality is a mixture of like good and bad things, and good and bad things happen. But for a lot of us, especially a lot of people that are in the comfort of their homes watching this on YouTube or listening, like you are already privileged. Like you already have good things. When you focus on what you do have, you can build from that and have more. It's always going to serve you to have positive beliefs. Always, always. When I was miserable, when I was at my worst, yeah, I was poor. Yeah, I was poor, but guess what I also was? I was able-bodied. I was able-bodied. Yeah, I was getting abused, but guess what I had? I had youth. Still have youth. Like that's a privilege. There's always going to be a privilege there. Use it. Hang on to that. Be grateful and use it and fight and be patient because there's really no other way. You don't have a choice. You're either going to be miserable and succumb to the negative beliefs that society feeds onto you or that you feed onto yourself, or you're going to fight and climb the fucking mountain. But when you climb the mountain, you're going to be so proud when you're at the top and you have an amazing view. And then you're going to be strong as hell and muscular and looking hot. So there's really no other choice. Like there, and I think I've always known that, and that's why I've committed to my growth, because it's either this or I die. Like, and I don't want to die. Like, I mean, deep down, I don't think I ever wanted to. But yeah, it's just like you are living this life. This is the moment right now. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you really do have to seize the moment and do the best that you can. And there's beauty in the fuck ups, there's beauty in the mistakes, and it's possible to get out of a rut. I've been in many ruts, so many that were extremely deep, and I didn't think I could get out of them. But because I stayed committed to my growth, I did. And that is why I'm sharing this, because it's a valuable experience. Like, I came from abandonment, from physical, verbal abuse, poverty, like moving, bullying. So like I could list all the traumas. I could bring my scroll of traumas and then say that life is so unfair because I this all happened to me. And yeah, like I'm not going to say it's fair because it wasn't. It was not fair. But I'm not there anymore. Like I'm not there. I don't know what else to say. I dug my way out. I fought my way out and I made it. And life is really good now. Life is great. I feel great. I feel good because I invested. And like I feel like when you have negative beliefs, there's things that you get challenged in both ways, right? And like my old self would be like, yeah, but that still shouldn't have happened to you. Like other people have great lives from the beginning. Like you still had to fight. Like that is so fucking unfair. Like no, hell no. And it's, yeah, it's true. But like I don't really like, I'm not faced by those kinds of like beliefs or things or statements that rise, because they could come from other people. Like they don't come from my brain anymore. That's not the way my brain works anymore. But sometimes they do come from other people, and I'm just completely unfazed by it, because it's like, well, you can make that argument about anybody for anything. It's you can always find a but, you can always find a negative, but you can always find a positive, and it is your responsibility to direct your view and what serves you the most. And I did that, even though there was a little something pulling me to the negative. I fought and I fought and I fought, and I got help. I got help. So my view would always be on what serves me. But yeah, that concludes today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. Another disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. Everything that I said on this podcast has been just from my own personal experience. I am speaking solely for myself. I'm speaking for myself, and I do hope that the things that I've said have made people feel seen, or helped people, or like inspired people to fight for their mental health, to fight for their happiness, and fight for their life, because it is absolutely worth it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.